The arena of power. The twin suns were setting over the great arena of Varnak, casting long shadows across the stone floor. Thousands of aliens filled the stands, their colorful skins and glowing eyes reflecting the fading light. They roared with excitement, stamping their feet and waving flags. Tonight was special. Tonight a human was going to fight. Zira, the champion of the Zorthak race, stood tall in the center of the arena. Her silver armor gleamed under the dying suns. Two sharp blades hung at her waist, but she did not even touch them. She laughed, loud and mocking, as she looked at the small figure across from her. The human, Cain, looked out of place. He wore no armor, only simple black clothing. His body was lean, not bulky like the alien warriors around him. He had no weapon in his hands. Many in the crowd booed when they saw him. They thought he would be crushed in seconds. Zira pointed at Cain and shouted, "Is this the best Earth can send? He is weak. He will not last a minute against me." The crowd cheered her on, their voices thundering in the open sky. Cain did not react. He stood still, his face calm and unreadable. A deep, booming voice echoed through the arena. It was the Grand Master of the games. "Fighters, prepare yourselves. The match begins in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The gong rang out, and the fight began. Zira wasted no time. She charged at Cain, her fists ready to smash him to the ground. She moved fast, faster than any human eye could follow. But Cain did not move. He waited still and silent. At the last second, when Zira's punch was about to connect, Cain sidestepped with a smooth, simple motion. Zira stumbled forward, missing him by inches. The crowd gasped in shock. "Lucky," someone muttered. Zira growled, turning quickly. She attacked again, this time with a spinning kick aimed at Cain's head. Again, Cain moved just enough to avoid it. He was not faster than her, but he was precise. Every movement he made was perfect, wasting no energy. The crowd grew quiet. This was not what they had expected. They had come to see a human get destroyed, not to watch one dance around their champion. Zira's face twisted in anger. She launched a series of fast, deadly strikes, but Cain dodged them all. His eyes never left hers. He was studying her, learning her style, seeing her weaknesses. Finally, Cain made his first move. With a small step forward, he caught Zira's wrist mid-punch. He twisted lightly, using her own momentum against her. Before anyone could understand what happened, Zira was thrown to the ground, landing hard on her back. The crowd was silent for a moment. Then a low murmur started. Disbelief spread like fire. Zira jumped back to her feet, her pride burning hotter than her pain. She roared and drew one of her blades, pointing it at Cain. "Enough games, human," she shouted. "Face me with real strength." Cain said nothing. He simply raised his hands in a peaceful gesture, inviting her to come at him. The Grand Master hesitated but allowed the fight to continue. Weapons were allowed if one fighter chose to use them. Zira attacked with her blade, swinging fast and wild. Cain moved smoothly, sidestepping, ducking, and blocking with open palms. He was not just fighting. He was controlling the fight. Every move Zira made, Cain turned into her own defeat. Watching from the high seats, the alien council members leaned forward. They whispered among themselves. Who was this human? Where did he learn to fight like this? The crowd, once full of laughter and mockery, now watched in awe. Zira, furious and desperate, aimed a final powerful slash at Cain. He ducked under it and stepped in close. With a swift, clean motion, he tapped her on the chest with 2 fingers. It looked gentle, almost silly. But Zira froze, her body locking up. Then she collapsed to her knees, gasping for air. Cain had struck a nerve point, disabling her without even hurting her badly. The Grand Master stood and announced, "The round is over. The human Cain has won." The arena exploded into noise. Some aliens cheered, others screamed in anger, but none could deny what they had seen. The human, weak and small in appearance, had defeated their champion without even throwing a real punch. Cain turned without a word and walked out of the arena. He did not raise his hands. He did not celebrate. He simply disappeared into the shadows, leaving the crowd and the galaxy to wonder, how many more secrets did the humans hide behind their simple looks? The first move of the night fell slowly over the arena of Varnak. The two suns dipped below the horizon, and cold winds whispered across the stands. Though the match had ended, no one had left their seats. Something strange had happened today, something they could not understand. A human had defeated Zira, their proud champion, without even breaking a sweat. Deep inside the underground chambers of the arena, Kane walked silently through the dark stone halls. His steps made no sound. Guards and workers who passed him avoided his eyes. They felt something in him, a heavy, quiet power that made their instincts scream at them to stay away. Kane moved toward the preparation room, where fighters rested between matches. He was not finished yet. His victory was only the beginning. In the shadows of the arena stands, the alien council members gathered quickly. They spoke in low, serious voices. "He cannot be human," said a tall, thin alien with purple skin and long fingers. "No human moves like that," said another, shaking his head. "We must test him again," the oldest council member said. "This time truly test him." They made their decision quickly. Another fight would happen. Not one opponent this time, but 3. Meanwhile, Kane stood in the preparation room, washing his hands in a small stone basin. The water was cold and clear. He stared at his reflection in the mirror. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes, a memory, a shadow. And then it was gone. A soft knock came at the door. A messenger, short and nervous, entered and said, "The council, they request you for another match. 3 challengers, immediately." Kane nodded once without a word. He dried his hands and followed the messenger. The crowd buzzed with excitement as the announcement was made. "The human will face 3 elite warriors. The battle begins in 10 minutes. Aliens pushed closer to their seats. Bets were placed. Some cheered, others jeered. They were hungry to see Kane fall. They wanted to believe that his first victory had been luck. Zira, bruised and silent, sat alone in a corner high above the arena. She watched with narrowed eyes. Inside her heart, anger and something else, respect, burned. As Kane entered the arena once more, 3 opponents waited for him. A giant 4-armed brute named Grolth, a fast and deadly insectoid named Sharkai, and a tall armored female warrior called Thessa. They looked strong. They looked confident. The Grand Master spoke again. 3 against 1, no rules, only victory. The gong rang. For a moment, nothing happened. Kane stood still like a black stone in the center of the arena. The 3 opponents circled him slowly, trying to find an opening. The crowd leaned forward in their seats, holding their breath. Sharakai moved first, darting in low and fast, aiming to strike Kane's legs. At the same time, Thessa attacked from the side with a heavy blade, and Grolth rushed in from the front with massive fists. 3 attacks from 3 directions. Kane still did not move. Then, at the perfect moment, he stepped slightly to the side. Sharkai missed completely and tumbled past him. Thessa's blade struck Grolth's fist instead of Kane. Grolth roared in pain as the blade cut deep into his arm. The crowd gasped. Before they could react, Kane moved. He grabbed Sharkai by the thin neck and, with a single spin, threw him into Grolth's injured arm. Both fell to the ground, tangled, together. Thessa was left alone, shocked for a split second. Kane closed the distance between them in a blink. She tried to raise her sword, but he knocked it from her hands with a light slap. With no weapon, Thessa tried to punch him. Kane caught her wrist gently and twisted it, forcing her to her knees without hurting her. His movements were effortless, almost graceful, as if he was simply guiding them to defeat themselves. Grolth, furious and wild, managed to untangle himself and charged again. His huge body shook the ground with every step. Kane turned slowly to face him. This time, Kane did not dodge. He moved forward. The 2 met in the center with a loud, cracking sound. But instead of being smashed, Kane ducked under Grolth's wide punch and pressed 2 fingers into a nerve point at Grolth's side. The giant froze mid-step, his body locking up like a broken machine, and he toppled forward like a falling tree. The entire arena shook when he hit the ground. Only silence remained. Sharkai, now crawling to his feet, saw Kane walking toward him. Terror filled his insect-like eyes. He dropped his weapon and fled the arena without even trying to fight. The Grand Master slowly rose to his feet, his mouth open in disbelief. "The human has defeated all three," he shouted. The crowd erupted, not with cheers this time, but with stunned, respectful applause. Kane stood still, breathing calmly. Not a scratch on him. Not a mark of struggle. High above, Zira watched with wide eyes. She finally understood. Kane was not just a fighter. He was a force. Quiet, deadly, unstoppable. As Kane left the arena once again, whispers filled the air. Who trained him? What kind of human is he? Is he even human? The answers were hidden deep within Kane's calm eyes. Answers no one dared to ask yet. But soon, they would have no choice, because Kane's real battle had not even started. Unexpected strength. The cold air wrapped around Kane as he walked through the silent stone corridors under the arena. No guards stopped him. No messengers approached him. It was as if the walls themselves were afraid to touch him. He was like a shadow moving among stone statues. Above him, the crowd had not yet left. Many stayed behind, whispering, arguing, trying to make sense of what they had just seen. 3 elite fighters defeated by a human, and not just defeated. They were destroyed with ease. Deep inside the council chamber, hidden behind thick metal doors, the alien leaders met once again. Fear had replaced their pride. "This cannot be allowed," hissed one. "He is a danger," said another. "He must be tested again, harder this time," whispered the oldest, his voice almost shaking. They decided to send their deadliest weapon, not a fighter, not a soldier, a beast. Meanwhile, Kane stood alone in a small empty room. He leaned against the wall, his eyes closed, breathing slow and deep. Inside his mind, memories of a distant Earth flashed, training in the forgotten mountains, silent masters teaching him how to see, how to move, how to become a storm hidden inside a whisper. A loud clang broke the silence. The door opened, and a tall figure stepped inside. It was the Grand Master himself, his purple robes flowing behind him. He did not speak for a long moment. He simply stared at Kane. Finally, he said, "The Council offers you a final challenge. Survive, and you will be free." Kane opened his eyes slowly. He did not ask who or what he would face. He simply nodded once. The Grand Master gave a sad smile, as if he pitied the human, and turned away. Outside, the arena lights dimmed until only a single circle of light remained in the center. The rest of the field was swallowed by darkness. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. They could feel something had changed. This was not just a fight anymore. It was something darker. The announcer's voice, shaky this time, rang out. "From the pits of Zurath, we bring forth the beast." The gates creaked open with a loud, grinding sound. From the darkness, a massive shape emerged. It was taller than any warrior, wider than any creature known to the people of Varnak. It walked on 4 thick legs, its body covered in dark scales that shimmered like oil. Glowing red eyes stared out from a monstrous face filled with sharp teeth. It was not intelligent. It was not honorable. It was made only for one purpose: destruction. The crowd gasped as the beast let out a low, rumbling roar that shook the arena walls. Even the bravest aliens leaned back in fear. Kane stepped forward into the light. He looked so small, so fragile compared to the monster. Whispers spread like wildfire through the stands. This time he cannot win. No one can defeat a Zurath beast. He will be crushed. The gong sounded. The beast charged immediately, its heavy body making the ground tremble. The sound of its roar filled the air, drowning out even the pounding hearts of the audience. Kane did not move. He waited, calm as stone. At the last moment, when the beast's massive claws came crashing down, Kane shifted his body. The claws missed him by less than an inch, slamming into the ground with a deafening crack. Dust and stone flew into the air. Through the thick dust, The crowd searched for the human's broken body. But when the dust settled, they saw Cain standing. There untouched, his hand still at his sides. The beast turned, confused for a second. It roared again, louder this time, and attacked with even greater fury. Its massive tail whipped through the air like a falling tree, aimed to smash Cain into the ground. Cain ducked under the strike, rolling smoothly across the stone floor. He rose to his feet as the tail smashed into the wall behind him, breaking it into pieces. The crowd was silent. Cain studied the beast carefully. Its movements were powerful but slow. Its body was strong but heavy. Its rage made it blind. He had seen this before, not in beasts, but in men. Cain moved forward, not backward. The beast roared and swung its claws again. Cain dodged to the side and touched the beast's leg with an open palm. It looked like nothing, like a whisper of a touch, but the beast stumbled. Something was wrong. The beast roared in anger and attacked again, faster this time. Cain ducked, spun, and touched it again, lightly, at a point behind its front shoulder. The beast faltered, its step uneven now. High above, the council members stood frozen, their faces pale. "What is he doing?" one whispered. "He is disabling it," another said, horror in his voice. Cain was striking hidden points in the beast's massive body, nerves, muscles, pressure spots. The same way a master would control a wild horse, without breaking its spirit. Bit by bit, with gentle touches and perfect timing, he was shutting down the beast's strength. The beast slowed. It staggered. It let out a final, broken roar and collapsed with a heavy thud onto the arena floor, unable to rise. The entire arena fell into a deep, stunned silence. No one moved. No one spoke. Cain stood beside the fallen beast, breathing softly, as if he had just finished a morning walk. He turned his eyes to the council seats high above, locking gaze with the oldest member. No words were spoken, but the message was clear. Cain was not just a fighter. He was a storm wrapped in human skin, and this storm had only just begun. The battle turns. The arena of Varnak was no longer a place of entertainment. It had become something else, a shrine to fear and mystery. Every pair of alien eyes watched Cain in silence as he stood calmly beside the fallen beast. The cold wind whistled through the open stadium, carrying with it a sense of change. The council members gathered quickly behind their high walls, whispering in fear and confusion. They could not understand how a simple human could defeat their champions, their warriors, and even their monstrous beast. "He cannot be real," one said. "He is a weapon," said another. "If we do not stop him now," the oldest among them whispered, "he will destroy everything we have built." But they knew something deeper in their bones. They knew that strength alone would not defeat Cain. So they decided to use something far more dangerous: betrayal. Deep underground, hidden from the cheering and screaming crowd, a secret meeting was happening. Zira, still nursing her wounds, was summoned by the council. They made her an offer she could not refuse. "You must fight him again," the oldest council member said. "But not with honor, not with rules. You must use the forbidden serum." Zira's pride burned at the thought. She had lost fairly. Her heart wanted a clean fight. But when she looked into the council's cold eyes, she knew she had no choice. Her life depended on it. With trembling hands, she took the small black vial they offered her. The serum glowed faintly, pulsing like a living thing. "This will make you stronger," the council promised. "Stronger than anything he has ever faced." Meanwhile, in the quiet preparation room, Cain sat alone. He closed his eyes and breathed deeply. He could feel the shift in the air. Something dark was moving toward him. He could sense betrayal long before it showed its face. But he did not move. He waited. The Grand Master's voice echoed once more through the arena. "The human has passed every challenge, but now he faces his final trial. A rematch with Zira, champion of the Zorthak race." The crowd, confused and excited, roared into life. They remembered the humiliation of their warrior. Now, they hoped for revenge. Zira entered the arena slowly. Her armor looked the same, but her eyes were different. They burned with an unnatural light. Her body moved with a sharpness, a deadly grace that had not been there before. Kane opened his eyes and stepped forward. He could see it immediately. Zira was no longer herself. The serum had changed her, and it had made her dangerous beyond anything he had faced before. The gong rang. This time Zira did not mock him. She attacked instantly, faster than any creature Kane had ever seen. Her blade sliced through the air, aiming straight for his throat. Kane dodged, but even he felt the wind of her blade brush against his skin. The crowd gasped. Zira pressed the attack, a storm of metal and rage. Every move was deadly. Every strike aimed to kill, not to defeat. Kane moved with perfect calm, but he knew this was different. He could not afford a single mistake. He blocked her strikes, twisted her attacks, aside countered with small movements, but Zira did not slow down. If anything, she became faster, more vicious with every second. The serum inside her was burning away her fear, her pain, even her reason. She had become pure destruction. Kane realized the truth. This was no longer a fight. This was survival. Zira's blade slashed across his arm, drawing the first blood of the night. A thin red line appeared, and the crowd roared louder. For the first time, Kane was wounded. He stepped back, calculating. He could not fight her strength head-on. He had to use something stronger, her own anger. Kane began to retreat, letting Zira chase him across the arena. Every time she attacked, he dodged by the smallest margin, making her believe she was close to victory. Zira screamed in rage, her mind breaking under the weight of the serum. She threw everything she had at him, every technique, every ounce of strength. And Kane waited. He waited for the right moment. It came when Zira lunged forward wildly, overextending herself. Kane moved faster than sight. He ducked low, swept her legs from under her, and pinned her arm against the ground with a sharp, precise motion. Zira struggled like a wild animal, but Kane pressed lightly on a nerve at her shoulder. Her body spasmed once, then fell still. The crowd froze. The council members stood in silence, horror in their eyes. Zira lay on the ground, breathing heavily, unable to rise. Kane stepped back, giving her space. He did not need to humiliate her. He had already won. But he looked up, straight into the council's hidden windows. He knew. He knew they had poisoned her. He knew this was no fair fight. The Grand Master's voice was weak when he spoke. The human is victorious. But no cheers came this time. Only the cold wind. Only the heavy sound of truth falling upon the world. Kane walked away from the arena floor, not with pride, but with a deep sadness. This world wanted to break him, but they would soon learn. Some storms cannot be broken. Some storms only grow stronger when challenged. And Kane was the beginning of a storm they had never imagined. The fall of arrogance, the arena of Varnak lay in a heavy silence. No music played, no voices cheered. The great warriors of many worlds, the proud council members, the once mocking crowd, all sat frozen, as if the very air had turned to stone. Zira still lay on the cracked ground, her body broken not by Kane's strength alone, but by her own rage and the poison of the serum. She struggled to rise, her fingers clawing weakly at the dirt. Her breathing was shallow, her eyes glassy with confusion and pain. Kane stood several steps away, watching her. There was no joy on his face, no satisfaction, only a quiet sadness, like a man who had seen too many battles and lost too many things. Above them, the council members whispered furiously behind their hidden walls. This was supposed to end him, spat one. How did he survive the serum? Another demanded. The oldest council member closed his eyes and said, because he is not like us. We used strength. He used wisdom. Those words, spoken softly, spread fear through the entire council chamber. Meanwhile, down in the arena, the Grand Master hesitated. He wanted to declare Kane the ultimate victor, to end the games before something worse happened. But the council's orders burned in his mind like chains around his heart. He raised his staff and shouted, Bring the enforcers. Huge iron gates opened at the sides of the arena. 12 armored enforcers marched in, their faces hidden behind black helmets. Each carried shock spears and thick shields. The crowd gasped. This was not a fight anymore. This was an execution. Kane turned to face the new threat without fear. His body relaxed, his breathing slow. He watched the enforcers spread out around him, forming a tight circle. Zira, still kneeling on the ground, lifted her head. When she saw the enforcers, her heart twisted with guilt. She realized the truth. At last. It was never about honor. It was about fear. Fear of the unknown. Fear of Kane. Kane moved first. Before the enforcers could react, he was among them, like a shadow made real. He disarmed the first with a single twist of the wrist, sent the second flying with a precise strike to the chest. The third tried to bring his shock spear down on Kane's back, but Kane caught it mid-air, flipped it over and struck the attacker in the knee. In seconds, 3 enforcers lay broken on the ground. The others hesitated. They had never seen anything like this. A fighter who moved faster than thought, who fought without anger, without fear, without hate. Only purpose. Zira, watching from the ground, felt her heart shatter. She realized she had laughed at him once. She had mocked him for being human, for being small. But now she understood. He was more than flesh. He was more than strength. He was spirit, pure and unbreakable. The enforcers regrouped and attacked together. 6 spears came at Kane from all sides. The crowd leaned forward, unable to breathe. Kane spun low, avoiding the strikes, and used the movement to sweep 2 enforcers off their feet. He rose with a leap, grabbing a falling spear and hurling it with perfect aim into the shield of another, knocking him backward. The battle raged on, but with every moment the outcome became clearer. No matter how many came at him, Kane adapted. No matter how strong they were, Kane used their strength against them. He fought like water, flowing, shifting, never breaking. Finally, the last enforcer dropped his weapon and fell to his knees, surrendering. Kane stood alone in the center of the field, surrounded by fallen warriors. The Grand Master's hand trembled on his staff. He had no choice now. He lifted it high and called out, "The human Kane is the true champion of Varnak." A strange sound filled the arena, not cheers, not boos, but silence. The silence of deep, undeniable respect. Kane turned away from the arena floor, his task complete. He walked toward the gate slowly, each step echoing in the stillness. Zira, using the last of her strength, crawled after him. "Wait," she whispered, her voice broken and small. Kane stopped and looked back. Zira reached out a shaking hand. "I was wrong," she said, tears filling her eyes. "You are stronger than all of us, not because of your fists, but because of your heart." Kane bent down and gently touched her shoulder. He said nothing. He did not need to. Then he turned and walked away, disappearing into the darkness beyond the gate. High above, the council members watched with hollow eyes. They had tried to destroy him. They had tried to break him with force, with betrayal, with numbers, and they had failed. Their arrogance had fallen, and in its place, a new fear was born. Because somewhere, deep inside, they knew. They had awakened something they could never defeat, and Kane was just getting started. The silent victory, beyond the heavy iron gates of the arena, darkness stretched out like an endless sea. Kane walked through it, his steps steady and unhurried. The roaring crowds behind him faded into a hollow memory. He did not look back. He had no reason to. Somewhere high above, in the hidden towers of the arena, the council members stared down in stunned silence. They had seen strength before. They had seen champions rise and fall, but never had they seen anything like Kane. He had fought without cruelty. He had won without pride. And now, he claimed his victory without a single word. The Grand Master lowered his staff slowly. He had been the voice of the games for many years, but tonight his voice felt small. He knew he had witnessed something far greater than sport. He had seen the fall of an old world and the birth of something new. As Kane disappeared into the dark tunnels, the council panicked. "We cannot let him leave Varnak," one council member hissed. "He knows too much," another growled. "If he speaks to the other worlds, our rule will end," whispered the oldest, his voice cracking with fear. Orders were given quickly. Secret assassins were sent into the tunnels. Silent killers trained in the darkest arts. Their only mission: eliminate Kane before he could step outside the arena walls. In the cold, empty halls, Kane walked alone. He felt them before he saw them. The shadows twisted. Silent figures emerged, their blades glinting in the faint light. They surrounded him, moving like smoke. But Kane did not slow. The first assassin struck, a knife aimed at Kane's spine. Kane shifted his weight slightly, letting the blade pass by inches. His hand moved like a whisper, catching the assassin's wrist and twisting it until the blade clattered to the ground. Without a sound, Kane dropped the attacker with a precise strike to the neck. The others hesitated, sensing something they could not understand. Kane moved again. He was a blur between them, striking, dodging, turning their weapons against them. His movements were almost lazy, as if he had no effort to waste. In seconds, the assassins were broken, unconscious, lying in the cold dust of the tunnel floor. Kane paused. He breathed in slowly, feeling the weight of the moment. He was not just surviving anymore. He was making a statement. High above, the council felt the sting of failure once again. Their strongest warriors had fallen. Their beast had fallen. Their tricks, their poison, even their silent killers, and all had failed. They had thrown everything they had at Kane, and Kane still walked forward. The last line of defense was crumbling, and the people were beginning to see. Back. In the arena stands, whispers moved like a growing wave. "He is not like the others," one alien said quietly. "He fights not for blood, but for honor," another whispered. "He fights for something bigger," a young warrior said, eyes wide with wonder. Even Zira, now sitting with her head bowed in the healing chambers, could feel it. The air itself had changed. Kane was no longer just a human to them. He was a symbol. And symbols were dangerous to those who ruled with fear. Outside the arena walls, the city of Varnak stretched under the starlit sky. Massive towers reached into the heavens, connected by glowing bridges. Ships floated above like silent ghosts. Kane stepped out into the cool night. He looked up at the stars. He thought of Earth, distant, forgotten, a small blue dot lost among the galaxies. He wondered if they knew that one of their own now stood on a foreign world, changing the course of history. Behind him, he heard footsteps. He turned slowly. A single figure approached. Not a warrior, not a council member. It was a young alien, girl, no older than a child. She carried a small flower in her hand, its petals glowing softly in the dark. She stopped in front of Kane and held out the flower with trembling hands. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice full of hope and wonder. Kane bent down, accepted the flower gently, and gave her a small nod. No words were spoken. None were needed. In that moment, the world shifted. Kane's silent victory had become something far greater than anyone could have planned. It was not just about strength. It was about what strength could protect. And now, deep inside the heart of Varnak, the fires of rebellion, of hope, had been lit. Kane turned once more toward the open city. Ahead of him lay a future full of danger, betrayal, and battle, but he would not run. He would not hide. He would face whatever came next the same way he had faced the arena, calm, unyielding, silent, because true power did not need to scream. It only needed to stand. And Kane would stand until the very stars themselves remembered his name. The legend begins. The stars above Varnak shined brighter than ever, but deep inside the city, a different kind of light was growing, a light that no one could control, a fire that no one could put out. Kane walked through the sleeping streets of Varnak, silent as the wind. Alien faces peeked from behind shutters and market stalls. Some were filled with fear. Some were filled with wonder. All were filled with questions. Who was he? Where had he come from? And what would he do next? Cain moved without hurry. He had no army behind him, no crown on his head, no flags flying his name. But somehow, every step he took echoed louder than the marching boots of 1,000 soldiers. Behind him, the council scrambled like frightened insects. They sent spies into the streets. They sent whispers into the dark corners. They tried to convince the people that Cain was a danger, that he would bring ruin. But their lies came too late. The people had seen him. They had seen a man stand against monsters, armies, and death itself, and win. Without hatred, without cruelty. Only with strength, wisdom, and an unbreakable will. And once the people see something pure, something true, it cannot be unseen. In hidden meeting rooms, alien merchants spoke in low voices. We must not trust the council anymore, one said. We must find the human, another said, and ask him to lead us. In the soldier barracks, young fighters polished their weapons and dreamed. I want to be like him, a young recruit whispered. I want to fight for something real, said another. In the royal towers, even some of the noble houses began to doubt their masters. If one human can bring them to their knees, an old noble said, what else can we not do? The wave had started, and Cain, without speaking a word, had become the heart of it. As Cain walked, a small group of people followed him, quietly at first, keeping their distance. A merchant, an old warrior, a young mother holding her child. None of them spoke. None of them asked for anything. They simply walked behind him. One by one, more joined. A healer carrying a torn banner, a scholar clutching a book of forbidden knowledge, a group of orphaned children barefoot and wide-eyed. Soon, Cain was not alone. He was a moving river of hope, silent but unstoppable. The council saw this and knew they were losing. They ordered the city gates to be sealed. They sent armored troops to block the streets. They sent their last and fiercest general, a monster of a being named Vorath who had never lost a battle. Vorath stood in the main square, a giant among men, his black armor shining under the pale moons. He roared across the stones, his voice shaking the air. Stop, turn back, surrender the human or face death. The crowd froze. Fear gripped their hearts. They had no weapons, no armor. They had only their hope. Cain stepped forward. He moved calmly through the crowd, parting it like a ship through water. When he reached the front, he stood alone before Vorath. Cain had no sword, no shield, only the small glowing flower the alien child had given him, still tucked in his belt. Vorath laughed, a deep, cruel sound. A flower against a sword, he mocked. You insult me. Cain said nothing. He simply dropped the flower onto the stone floor between them. The small petals shimmered in the moonlight. Vorath growled and charged, his heavy axe raised high. Time seemed to slow. The crowd held its breath. And then, with a single perfect motion, Cain moved. He sidestepped the axe, letting it crash harmlessly to the ground. With the grace of a falling leaf, Cain placed a hand on Vorath's armor and pushed. It was not a hard push. It was not angry, but it was perfectly placed. Vorath stumbled, lost his balance, and fell forward onto the stones, his own armor trapping him like a fallen statue. The square exploded, not with violence, but with a sound more powerful than any weapon, the sound of a people waking up. They cheered, they wept, they shouted Cain's name to the stars. In that moment, something inside Varnak broke free. The people realized they did not need fear. They realized strength was not about domination. It was about standing, about protecting, about rising together. Cain looked around at the faces glowing with new hope. He knew his journey was only beginning. He had no desire to rule, no hunger for power, but he would fight if he must. He would protect them, if he could, and through him, the forgotten spirit of resistance would rise again. High above, the council members watched in horror. They had tried to silence him with blood, with betrayal, with monsters. But they had only made him a legend. And legends do not die. They live forever, burned into the hearts of those brave enough to believe. And so, under the twin moons, of Varnak, the legend of Cain began. A silent warrior from a forgotten world, who taught the galaxy that even the smallest voice, even the quietest step, could shake empires to their very core. And this was only the beginning.